So we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome everybody to Perk Up Thursday. Tammy Adcock is here from Adcock Coaching, and she's going to be our speaker. So as always, we'll go around and introduce ourselves, and then Tammy will let you take the floor. So Ben, do you want to start us off?
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm just really happy to be here and talk to you a little bit more about Adcock Coaching. When I talked last time, I had just started, so I guess I didn't have a whole lot of advice for you guys because I was brand new. I just knew that most businesses make it or break it within the first 5 years. So when I first started, wham bam, we got hit with COVID. And because I work coaching women who have been in domestic abuse, custody, and divorce cases, I thought, well, this is kind of perfect for me because a lot of those women have to be very secretive about talking to a therapist, talking to an attorney, and definitely someone's going to ask, who are you paying to coach you? What are they coaching you for? And of course, as an abuser, they don't want you to be empowered. And so it just ended up being perfect for my business that I started out by doing all of my coaching by Zoom. So people were able to Zoom in their car. They were able to Zoom from a park because my one requirement for my clients is that there are no children in earshot distance from our conversation. They should be completely left out of adult conversations. And especially when we're talking about sensitive topics of child abuse, domestic abuse, psychological abuse, I just didn't want them anywhere near. So that has worked out very well. And I think it's probably deterred some people that weren't there for the right purpose. So I was able to, not actually have to worry about having an office where I would meet some people face to face. So basically I started 2 years ago. Give you a little history if you weren't here for my last talk. I have been in a very high conflict custody case for over 12 years. Potentially, I would have 5 more years until my youngest child has aged out of our Nebraska 19-year-old, basically on your own system. And so at the point in time, I had no idea the limited amount of support and resources that you don't know what you don't know. So anyways, I had a friend from Facebook, actually a friend of a friend, who said, I think you're dealing with narcissism. And I was like, what's that? As you know, you hear that word all the time in television, just constantly in the media. I'd never heard it. So I looked it up and I realized this is what I'm dealing with. And so from that point on, I just started reading and educating myself. And I was lucky enough to meet with a girl from what's called One Mom's Battle, Tina Swithin. And she just gave me all the education that I needed to know what I was dealing with. And she was a published author of multiple books, a nonprofit, and now she's working in legislation to help change the laws that protect children. And so one day we all got an email from her and she said, I'm ready to pass the torch. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? And she's like, I want to empower all of you guys that are interested to now be coaches. And she goes and take over my clients. And I thought, well, she's at least given us a start. Like we wouldn't just start from scratch. And so I took that leap of faith and got certified. When I first became a coach 2 years ago, I was pretty in the thick of my own case. And so I just said, well, I'll just take it slow. But I said, a friend told me, just spend a little bit of time on your business every single day. It can be 10 minutes. It can be a half an hour, whatever you can devote to that. That was just just a huge weight lifted off my shoulder because I was like, I can do that. I have the skills. I've taught for 11 years at SEC, which gave me the ability to just research and know how to put presentations together. And so I thought, well, but where's all the money going to come from? Like as a startup. And I was like, I'm just going to go on a leap of faith and create my own website. And I did. And that was my first huge moment of empowerment that I was like, people are like, oh man, who created that for you? I was like, I did. And so from there, I just said, I'm just going to grow in, I'm a Christian. And so I said, I'm just going to let God lead where I should, where there's the most need for these women. And so my desire in public speaking and teaching was by the 11 years that I taught here. So I give SEC the credit for that completely. And so I thought, well, I've created syllabuses, I've created curriculum. Why am I not doing this? So there's a book out there, which everybody should have, because I'm sure they have at least a friend or a family member that's dealt with it. It's by Shannon Thomas, called Hidden Abuse, and it's all about psychological abuse. And as I continued to understand where the domestic abuse and that train of thought came from, a lot of it is once the abuser can get a hold of your psychological, they can physically abuse you, they can have the power and control, all of that through this. And so I found a local class here in Lincoln, and I took it. And at that point in time, my head was just really thick with stress. So I was privileged enough to take it. I had the book. I had so many things highlighted. Then I found out that it was being taught again. And I thought, well, things are good when you hear them better the second time. So I went ahead and I took the class. And at that point in time, I wanted to teach it. And I was like, I just kept saying, I don't think I can do this. And I'm like, how can I not do this? I taught for 11 years. So I thought, you know what? You learn from people, you gain more knowledge. So I took the class again with a great group of women, and I launched out and I decided to teach it. So I added it to my website in addition to my coaching. And my first class, I ended up having one individual. And I thought, man, this is a lot of time invested for one individual. But I said, you know what? I've walked out my door every morning and said, God, who can I help today? And I said, so maybe it's just this one person. So we began meeting at a coffee house, and it was going great. I could see the abuse. There was substance abuse. I just saw all the signs. But I was just feeling like that person was kind of teetering on the edge. And I thought, am I saying the wrong thing? Maybe I'm just not cut out to teach this class. And at the end, she said, I just don't know what I would do without you and my father. She said, you have been the greatest people to support me in making the decision I know I have to make for my family, because she had children. And a couple days later, she said, you know what? It was the last night we were meeting. And she said, my attorney just got a hold of me and said that if we don't do something with my case, I'm going to have to start all over again. And I thought, oh, please let me say the right thing, because so many people that do that, the statistics show that most women leave up to 8 times. And that's if they leave alive. Because the most dangerous time in leaving an abuser is when they know they've lost control of you and you're actually physically moving out. And so I thought, what do I say? I've got to say this great, just powerful. And she said something to me, and I said, well, let me interpret what he just told you. And she looked at me and she goes, you're absolutely right. I never saw it from that perspective. A couple of days later, she called me. She goes, I did it. And I have been able to see a complete transformation in this woman from the first day that I met her to now. And that is my motivation every single day when I go to work, is why I spend at least 10 minutes, if not a couple hours a day, working on my business to grow it outside of coaching. So in the last, someone asked me just the other day, so, what have you done in your business? And again, that kind of little self-doubt creeps in, and I was like, man, what do I say? And then I thought, what do I not say? I've been able to do what I call my business bucket lists, and I encourage people to do a bucket list anyways, but I have a business bucket list, and one of them was to have a TV commercial. So last year I had one on KLK on TV. Super worked with a great team, very proud of it. So my next bucket list item was to do a billboard. And so I was able to obtain the largest digital billboard here in Lincoln, and it's catty-cornered to the courthouse, of which obviously that's where I'm working with clients. And it was during election time. So my ad was right next to Senator Geis. And for whether you're a supporter of her or not, it still gave me the publicity that I needed. People started to say, hey, I heard from you from somewhere. I saw your face on a billboard. I saw your face on a commercial. So back to the healing from hidden abuse, which is a big thing for me, helping women. I just happened to go on her website because we talk back and forth on social media. She's the author of the book, and she has a section in her website for listing people who provide a local group of class. And so she'll say where you're from. So if, they know if they're in Nebraska, they can just click on my phone number or my website. And I just got a new client this week that says, I found you from hidden abuse. So I always thought, how much could that do by just putting my name on there? But again, it's just those little things that you do for your business that you may not see immediate results are going to help you down the road. I'm excited. Starting the first week of September, I will be in Women's Edition magazine. It used to be in Lincoln and Omaha. They pulled out of Lincoln when COVID happened. I guess it just wasn't feasible for them. And so I'm looking to enter the territories of Omaha, Council Bluffs, Gretna, and Papillion. And so I actually have recently gotten some new clients in Omaha. So that word was already spreading before that. And now I'm starting, again, my bucket list, to visit courthouses around Nebraska so I can get a feel for the judges that my clients are working with. So just a lot of that. Like I said, I've got social media out there. I went from, I know it's not for everyone, but I went from paper business cards to digital business cards. And so the nice thing about that is someone can just scan it. If they want to go to your website, great. It's just a click instead of having to type in somebody's email address. And then it leads them to be able to click. So if they just want TikTok, they could just go to TikTok. If they want Facebook, they can just click on Facebook and follow me. But I've gotten just a lot of different feedbacks from different age categories. So as you're dealing with your clients, I wanted to tie this back into you guys's. Not every niche is for everybody. I know people want to tell you that, and it's not. It's the age categories. You have to be aware of that. So TikTok is for my younger people. But the first time I had a video that was viewed over 4,000 times, I know there's a market out there for people who are dealing with abuse on a younger age. And so as I became aware of that, I also created a class, what healthy relationships look like for teenagers and young people. Because I thought if we're talking about breaking the cycle of domestic abuse, it's not like, okay, so your kids went through it, they spend their adult life in therapy because mom got out. How are we teaching them? We don't have to just heal ourselves. We have to show them why we got out and what signs to look for so that they don't repeat that pattern. And so for me, that's very, very important. And that healthy teenage class has been very successful. Been very grateful moms that said, sometimes my kid will talk to me. But as we know, most teenagers aren't wanting to talk to their own parent. They want to talk to somebody else. And when you have that ability, again, with my 11 years from SCC, I was typically always teaching freshmen. So I always had that age category. And so I also have a couple years experience with LPS as well, and got certified in at-risk youth for grade school, middle school, and high school. And so I just tried to hone in on those skills. As all of you as business owners, never be afraid to dig into your previous experience. Say, how can that job help me in what I'm doing now? Because like I said, all of the things I've done, I told you in my first talk that I did door-to-door sales with my father, and that's really where my passion started. And so those 7 years of being able to talk to anybody, anywhere, 11 years of teaching at SEC, being at LPS, because again, I was able to get certified through them for free, and at-risk young people. All of those things I give credit to where I am today. And I never thought I'd be able to say this, but my own story and what I've dealt with really gave me the passion to say, what didn't I have? What can I give them that I wish somebody would have given me? And instead of just being upset and angry that I didn't have what I'm giving them, when these women are like, I don't know what I would do without you, I realized that this is really what I was meant to do. I didn't think that, obviously nobody's meant to be abused, but I was able to use that for the benefit of other individuals. And I love what I do every single day. And so I tell you, like, even if you have a rough day at work or something doesn't go right, tomorrow's a new day. It's a 24-hour thing. And so I really encourage you, even in this room, if you're not really doing what you love, you can still find another own business to do, because you really have to be passionate about what you do. Because I love every single day waking up to a new email. I really have this case and my friend really told me that you can help me. How empowering is that someone really thinks that you have what they need? And so it really makes me thrive to read and educate myself and know statistics and know the inside of the courtrooms and talk to attorneys. Hey, what are you looking for, for these people to bring to you, because they're not in the right mindset. I'll give you a couple last success stories, and I'll close with that. One, I had a young mother who had children who were just in a really bad way. And you don't see a lot of success sometimes when these psychologists come in, because they're of the mindset that it doesn't matter if both parents are healthy. You have a mom and you have a dad, and you just have to just live with it. Well, I had a child that was in major crisis. And I thought, man, is this going to end like so many of the crises that I've seen? And I just got an email before I came here that said the psychologist is now recommending all the right things for these children. And it's really important to the courts, because that's not what they are professionals in. They really hang on what guardian ad litem say, what child psychologists say, and this psychologist got it right. And there's so many, as if you dig into anything in psychology on LinkedIn or whatever, if you follow any of those groups, I'm lucky enough to be part of the board of directors of the Mental Health Association here in Nebraska. And we have a major crisis for female youth. If you've been reading Kale Can's online newspaper, they're just talking about how really bad it is for the ages between like 11 and 15. And so that, in addition to what social media is telling them, don't eat, live your life on TikTok, don't socialize, don't talk to people, and then being in a toxic home, this is just horrible for young people. And so I'm just so excited that there is a Nebraska psychologist that actually got it. So kudos to that individual. Obviously, can't use names, but I would say, I don't know, all of the stories are good. I can't really think of another one specifically without going into details that obviously I can't share, but I know which one. So I went to Omaha to go sit with a client in court. That's all she wanted, was for me to just have somebody that she didn't have to be by herself. So we got there, and of course, a lot of times the attorneys can talk on the side. You don't end up having to talk in front of a judge. And so I thought, what are we doing here? Like, there's so many other things I could have done this afternoon. We're just sitting here. And there was a case that was being heard before ours. And it was two parents that clearly, neither one of them were invested in this situation. And there was an additional family member sitting in the courtroom. And I'm very blessed to read facial expressions. And I thought, this person is just heartbroken over what's happening in front of them. And so that individual left the courtroom, and I just got up out of my seat and I said, that's who I'm here for today. Can't explain it. And I went out and I started talking to the individual, and they explained the whole story. And I said, well, I'm not an attorney. I can't advise you legally. I said, but if this were me, you might consider this option or this option. Is there any, because I'm not as familiar with Omaha. So I said, is there any like legal aid? Is there any? She goes, well, the YWCA does a night of legal help for individuals. And so I said, okay. I said, I really believe in, I could just tell how attached these kids are to you. And I found out that this individual had the children their whole life. And so I could tell the judge was a great judge, but wasn't seeing the whole picture, because a lot of times people get nervous and they're not willing to speak in front of a judge. It just makes them intimidated. And so she went to this legal support group or whatever, and they said, well, I don't know what you've been told, but that person just told you the wrong thing. And I thought, nope. I said, I know when they said that there was something there. And so they went ahead, and in their timidity, they went to the courthouse the next morning. And it's so different here in Lancaster. Like, you really can't talk to the bailiffs. You can't talk to the judge at all. And they knocked on the door, and it was the bailiff's door. The bailiff wasn't working that day. And I know that just didn't happen by happenstance. And the judge opened the door, and they were able to just express truly the best interest of the child. And the judge goes, yes. They said, in my career, I've never seen someone come and advocate on behalf of a child like this. And they said, you go file your motion and I will hear it. And so we've stopped the children going to a very unsafe, unsanitary, very potentially dangerous situation. And so those are, I only get to see a little bit of the success to that. But every story, like I said, every little bit that they get empowered and they get stronger is a success story to me. So like I said, just in closing, make sure that you're doing anything for your business every day. I don't care if you choose to hand out 5 business cards that day, or you choose to make a couple cold calls, whatever it is that you do in your business, but do something every single day, because you will see the results. Guaranteed. I've seen it. So I can't wait to tell you guys what I see in 5 years. And I just feel like I'm changing one woman's life and children's life at a time. So thank you so much for having me. You guys have any questions?
Are you working with those fresh starter?
I am not. So a lot of times I have the resources listed on my website, because a lot of people, I have noticed too, because I'm not already busy enough, I'm also a corrections officer part-time. And so I work a lot with the female units. And so a lot of them are in there. Maybe it's substance abuse or alcohol due to domestic. A lot of them come in all battered up. And so I talk to them when I get a chance about just the psychological effects and maybe why they're making the choices that they are. And so I have just basically gone to my website now and just list all the resources that I know of so far. Like, for example, I think it's called Shelter Me Nebraska, and that's a nonprofit that takes care of pets, because a lot of people won't leave because they don't have a place for their pet, and that pet is everything to them. And if the abuser finds out that pet is important, most likely the abuser will also abuse the pet. And so she is a nonprofit that takes care of the pets while they get back on their feet. So I include all of those, but I don't work directly with them. Like, I've met with Friendship Home. So they have brochures and business cards. They know what I'm doing. And Voices of Hope, obviously, years ago, I started out by taking a class from them. So they also have business cards and such. In the back, there are brochures. If you know a friend, and I promise you, everybody has a friend or a family member or acquaintance that has dealt with this or knows somebody. So I have brochures in the back that basically explain my business. You want to pass it on to a friend. There's also business cards back there. Or for those of you who like digital, I have a digital card, and you guys can just scan that. And that way, if you come across somebody who needs those services, I know, what is his name? Fiscal Dad couldn't be here today, but he contacted me and we're going out for coffee. So he basically talks to people when they go through just a regular divorce about how they could prepare financially. And he said, I think I have a lot of people that you can talk to. So again, don't forget to network with people, because you may think, well, my business is so different than yours, or yours is so different than mine. But it doesn't mean that we can be like, oh, well, I do know somebody who does that. I'd rather refer you to somebody that I have, met or been in a group with. So keep those things in mind. Is there any other questions?
So you mentioned mostly working with women and children, but do you ever branch out and work with men as well?
I haven't so far. I'm definitely not opposed to that, because my big thing that you will hear a lot is I'm not for father's rights. I'm not for mother's rights. I'm for the rights of a child to live safely. So I guess a lot of my experience has come from having done a lot of fundraisers with Friendship Home, and then having used the services of Voices of Hope. So I just know a lot more females, and most of the people that have heard of me through other friends have just happened to be females. But no, yeah, I'm open to that as well. So because that is a stigma that I would love to clear up. There's not just abusive males. There is a lot of abusive females as well. So they both deserve to be supported. Good question.
They say trends. What young women, is it poverty or?
No, it's just a lot of it's I don't know how many of you guys have teenagers, but if you watch a lot of TikTok videos, they're about disrespect to adults in general. They're disrespecting teachers, disrespecting parents. So you've got that. Then you've got a society where you've got shows that just, there's pretty much no filter to TV anymore. It used to be, okay, this is rated this is rated this. And so then you also have them ending up in an abusive home. And so that's all they've grown up seeing. It's basically, okay, if I do what I'm told, I'm not going to get hit today. I'm not going to get screamed at. And so that's how they lash out when they don't get their way, because that's their brains are not fully developed at a teenage level. And so that's basically as far as their thinking goes. It's just kind of survival for them. And so you just see more and more. I just saw an article yesterday about sextortion. And so there's just so many lures in social media for young kids, and they're not knowing, like, especially if they don't have an adult in their life to go to and say, hey, what's wrong about this? Or what should I do? Or is this not okay? Or could this potentially be something harmful for me? And you see it in the best of homes. That's the thing that I guess I don't see it so much as a poverty thing. And that used to be a stigma, and that I carried as well. Oh, it must have been, they just weren't raised in an educated home or environment. It's not even that. It's just maybe the parents are fighting so much that they're looking to just have a significant other so they can get out of the home. And then it's like, yeah, but he loves me, or he wants a baby, or, And so I'm just trying to teach them what are green flags versus red flags in relationships. So when they're constantly in that like honeymoon stage of, oh my goodness, you're so beautiful. Oh my goodness, I love you. And then all of a sudden it's like, you were late. You didn't call me tonight. I'm not talking to you. I'm blocking you. Because that's what social media can do for kids, is it can make or break them at that age. I even had a psychologist tell me once that a teenager, like, if it be the last thing that you take away is their phone, because if they're in a group chat and it got taken away that night and they didn't contribute, they get just dropped from the group. And these kids are not of, again, the grown mental status where that means everything to them is being inclusive. And so, like I said, we've got a lot of work to do. And it's just come to my attention in the symposiums that I watched online because of COVID. There's not a lot in person, but that our young women specifically here in Nebraska are really in trouble. And we have such limited mental health resources, especially in places that are not Lincoln or Omaha. They're just little small towns. And so those are just things that we need to look for. Right now, the thing that's going around is that young people lay in bed for the whole day and TikTok it all day long. And the child psychologists are just going crazy over it. And they're like, what is the psychologist thinking? Because they said, if a child is laying in bed all day long, there's concerns for mental health. There's concerns for anxiety. There's concerns for potential self-harm. This is not a fun thing. This is not something you should be promoting for young people. And so I think if you can just help them with their mental health and having a more positive self-image, they want more out of life. And they need those role models in us to show them, that like one missed opportunity or one missed social interaction is not the end of the world. And we need to do that because we're supposed to have grown. We're adults. We need to be helping them because they're still growing and learning. So, any other questions? Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next.